City of Philadelphia is mourning the loss of 7 people who were involved in a deadly plane crash that struck a busy intersection on Friday night. CBS News Philadelphia's Ross DiMattei has the very latest on the investigation.
Good morning. I'm Ross DiMattei from CBS News in Philadelphia, and we are back at the site of a deadly plane crash, a medical transport jet that crashed right into a residential neighborhood in northeast Philadelphia on Friday evening, killing all 6 people on board that plane, as well as 1 person on the ground, and injuring at least 22 other people who were on the ground. And if you take a look behind me, you can actually still see some of the debris from that crash here at the crash site, as well as the giant crater left behind from the plane's impact. Now, over the weekend, federal investigators were continuing to canvass this massive debris field that spans about 4 to 5 city blocks, and they found the plane's cockpit recorder buried 8 feet inside of the crater where the plane crashed. That black box could be the key to revealing what exactly went wrong on board and caused the Learjet to nosedive less than a minute after takeoff. They also found the plane's enhanced ground proximity warning system, which could contain additional flight data. We're expecting the NTSB to release its preliminary report on this crash in about 30 days' time. In Northeast Philadelphia, I'm Ross DiMattei for CBS News.
All right, I want to bring in CBS News Philadelphia anchor Janelle Burrell and CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Gilmore. So both of you guys, thanks for joining us. We're on the air for several hours in the aftermath of the crash. Janelle, I'm told that you were not even working on that day, but then you came in and rushed to the scene to help report this out.
Yeah, Vlad, good to see you, unfortunately, under these circumstances. But that's right. I'd worked that morning. I'm the morning anchor and came back in after getting calls about the plane crash. And so Grant, myself, and our evening anchor, Yuki Washington, we were on the air walking viewers through exactly what was happening as we knew it at the time. But really, first, we heard that plane went down just after 6 o'clock, as Ross was reporting, but we did not know many details initially. Eventually, we found out it was a Medicaid flight, and that little girl, her mother, the 2 doctors, and the 2 pilots were on board. And then the aftermath, that huge mushroom cloud that you saw in a lot of that surveillance video. And we just did not know how far the damage had spread. And only later would we find out, as we were gathering more information from our reporters in the field, the fact that a number of homes had been badly damaged, and there were cars that were burned out, including one that had a man who was in the car, and he died from his injuries as a result of that plane crash. But just heartbreaking to hear.
Right. And, you know, when this was happening, Janelle, when we were on the air, we didn't have all that information. All we knew that 1, a plane had crashed, and 2, it had sent just horror through a whole community in Northeast Philadelphia. So, you know, as we are trying to get information for people at home and people in the community, we just weren't able to provide that information with it. We had a little bit of details anywhere we could, but, you know, the human condition is to understand what is happening. And we just couldn't provide that as quickly as we would like to, and certainly as quickly as the people at home wanted to.
Yeah, and the thing is, Vlad, at the time, the officials did not even know the scope of just how widespread this was. Ultimately, we come to find that the debris path was about 4 or 5 blocks. But even the mayor, during her live press conference, which we were airing, she could not tell us how many fatalities there were at that point, because they did not know. They did not know if there were people on the ground who were impacted. As we came to find out, 22 people injured. One of those people, as I said, died from his injuries in that car. There are still 5 people in the hospital, 3 of them in critical condition this morning, in addition to the 6 who were on board that flight who lost their lives.
Yeah, so as we went to try to find out details that was happening on the ground, at least we could turn to the weather conditions, because it was not a great evening.
Right.
You know, the clouds were low, very low. Visibilities were somewhat reduced. We had rain in the area. In fact, I can show you what the radar looked like. Let me take you over here and show you what the radar looked like. This was right around 6 o'clock. So the plane crashed technically at 6:07. This is what the radar looked like. I mean, we had steady light rain. Temperatures were in the mid-40s. As we went throughout the time of the crash, around 6 to 7 o'clock, the rain started to let up a little bit. But even so, I mean, we had a great deal of rain in the area. And I mentioned the cloud cover. The cloud base, so that ceiling, was only at 400 feet leading up to the time of that crash at 6:07. So we'll head back over to Janelle. But Janelle, that was one thing that we were talking about, is was it weather related or was it not? But as we started to get more and more information, it became immediately clear that something severe went wrong, and we're still looking to get that exact cause of the plane crash. But I mean, weather wasn't great, but it certainly wasn't horrible either.
And Vlad, the details, that little girl, she had been treated at Shriners Children's Hospital. She was from Mexico, and her mom, and they had just given her a send-off party because she had been at the hospital for 4 months. So she had concluded her treatment. They were eager to get back home to Mexico. This plane had left from Philadelphia's Northeast Airport. It was making its way to Missouri before its final destination of Mexico when this went down. So it's just heartbreaking, and we're still waiting for additional details as investigators are back on the ground there this morning, Vlad.
Well, Janelle and Grant, I know that this is your job. It is our job to report what we know when we know it, especially in moments of national trauma. We were just reeling from that plane crash in Washington, D.C., and to have another plane crash the very next day and involving this young child who had just received this medical treatment and was finally on her way home. It's absolutely heartbreaking to hear, but that is why local news matters, because what you both were doing and what the team at CBS News Philadelphia was doing was bringing that important context and information to our viewers, not just in the Philadelphia area, but all across where they could receive your broadcast. So thank you very, very much for exhibiting the very best of CBS News. Janelle and Grant, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for spending some time with us this morning to talk about it.
All right. Thank you, Vlad.